Have you ever felt like you say yes too many times in your life to other people and other things, even though it's a detriment to yourself? Or maybe you feel like you are pushing too many people away and you have a struggle and a hard time creating closer relationships and connections with others, even though you truly want to. In this video, I want to share with you one of the most important skills to learn and master in order to truly create the vision, the goal, the outcome in life that you truly want to achieve. And I'm curious, have you ever tried to maybe set boundaries with somebody and felt guilty for doing so? Or maybe you've noticed yourself saying yes to a lot of people and things in your life, even though you may want to say no. Or maybe on the flip side of that, you notice that you say no to a lot of things and have a hard time and a challenge really having the relationships and connections that you want in your life because you're pushing too many people away or you're saying no to too many things. Like I said, I've seen so many times in people's lives that what gets in the way of creating the life, the vision, the outcome, the goal that they want to achieve is that they haven't learned the skill of setting healthy boundaries with the people in their lives. And this is so important because in order to create the relationships, the connections, the vision and experience of life that you want to have, being able to set healthy boundaries is mandatory for that to happen. So I want to first start off by saying that if you have noticed that setting healthy boundaries has been something that has been challenging for you as you reflect on your life, that I want you to know that you're not alone. This is a very common challenge that all of us face as human beings. And a big part of that is because setting healthy boundaries and setting boundaries with others is not a part of our social conditioning and maybe has not been a major part of your social conditioning in your upbringing. And we're taught and kind of told to, say yes to others, maybe put others before ourselves in a way that maybe can be detrimental to our own self. And so if you notice that you maybe say yes to a lot of people or to a lot of things, that first off, like I said, you're not alone, and that it's maybe been something that you've been taught or told or conditioned to behave in this manner. But as you are an adult in your adult years here, starting to see that maybe you're saying yes to too many things and too many people at your own detriment. You need to be able to have some boundaries there so that you can recharge yourself. You can have that, bit of self-care in your own life so that you're able to live and have the life you want to have. Another example might be that there might be a fear of rejection or that you're prone to people pleasing or putting people before yourself, like I said, and that might be getting in the way because we don't want to be rejected or hurt other people's feelings. Yet at the same time, if it's at your own expense, then it's something that's important to become aware of and just bring some awareness to that space or where you're maybe allowing people to maybe even walk over you per se. And so people pleasing or that fear of rejection might be, another reason why setting healthy boundaries is something that is a challenge or could be a bit of a novel experience for you. That, a lot of times we're told to create a life for ourselves based on what other people think. Other people think like this is what's best for you, or you should be doing this in your life. And so many of us have created our lives based on the thoughts and opinions of others. And if you really want to create the vision of your life, the outcome and goals that you want to achieve, then a major part of that is setting the boundary of, hey, I hear what you're saying. I appreciate your thought and input, but I also need to see what's, true and authentic and in alignment with the life I want to create here. And so if you notice that maybe you've created a life or the things you're doing in your life are based on, what other people think, then this is an opportunity here of starting to create some agency and some connection to, what is it you want? What is that vision and that outcome you want to achieve and start to maybe set some boundaries of, hey, I hear you, but I'm also going to really listen and attune to what's important for me in my life side of. Because one of the first things I want to say here as a key insight is that when it comes to creating boundaries in your life and creating boundaries with others of where you're saying yes and where you're saying no, is it's starting to connect to what is the vision in your life first. What is the outcome or result you want to achieve in the space of your life with this person or, in your work or career, for example. but what is the vision or the outcome that you want to achieve for yourself? And it's so important to name that first and get clear on that, because the boundaries you create with others and for yourself are based on, is that taking me towards my vision? So, a helpful insight to start to get started on creating healthy boundaries in your life is starting to build some boundaries awareness and awareness of where your boundaries might be with the people and relationships in your life right now. And if you were to think about where boundaries might lie, is that they lie on a spectrum. And I even got this, this kind of line here right next to me. And basically, your boundaries can either be rigid, they can be soggy, or they can be that happy medium in between that I like to call that Goldilocks. Not too hot, not too cold, but right in between. Just right. And a rigid boundary might be where you're saying no too much, or you're starting to kind of put up walls of disconnect with people, and you may be isolating yourself or pushing people away, even though you want to be in connection with them. And so if you're noticing that the challenge for you in your life is that you're pushing people away too much, or you're like, keeping people at a distance per se, and you want to bring in more connection, then maybe you have some rigid boundaries that you need to bring some awareness to here. On the other side of that, fridges on one side of the spectrum of the boundaries, saying no too much, for example. Then soggy boundaries is where you're letting too much in. You're saying yes to too many things and too many people, and at your own expense, where, like saying yes to things is important. But if you're doing it at your own expense, where it's like, maybe I need to say no to this event tonight so I can, stay home, get a good night's sleep, recharge myself for the next day. So if you're saying yes too much, then maybe like your boundaries are more on that soggy side. And just to be aware of that, and just be aware, like if people pleasing is maybe a tendency for you, or you just notice that you want to make sure that people are happy and okay over your own, happiness and well-being, then just being aware that maybe like, hey, I'm maybe too much on the other side of the spectrum here. And so that Goldilocks, that sweet spot in between is where, it's being able to know when to say no and when to say yes in alignment with that vision, that outcome and goal you have for your life, or in the space of your life, or in this event or occasion going on. Like for example, we're about to go into the holiday seasons here, which is a time of connection, with family and loved ones. And for some of you, like spending time with your family could be something you look forward to and you can't wait for it. And for some of you, it might be like something you're like dreading. You're like, oh my gosh, like I'm about to see that one relative that I just, we never jive, and it's always a challenge. And just starting to be aware of, maybe like you're setting, maybe some soggy boundaries with family, and kind of saying yes to somebody too much, and starting to be aware of like kind of what's that sweet spot of saying yes and no, so that you can really be in a stronger relationship with that person or those people. Because setting healthy boundaries is not about putting up walls of disconnect. So many times we think like, oh, boundaries is about, putting people at a distance and telling them, like, hey, you can only do this, or behave this way with me, for example. But really, setting and creating healthy boundaries is a love language. It's a way of letting people know and communicating with somebody of, this is how we can be in relationship together. This is how we can work together. So there's no assumptions or worrying, but it's like, here's how we can, spend and quality time together. Because like I said, creating healthy boundaries is about building stronger relationships. And life is about experiences and relationships. That's what we're here for. So this is such an important skill to learn here, and start to just build awareness for yourself. If you were to just even think about, one person in your life or one space in your life, are you maybe on the side of, soggy boundaries and saying yes too much, or are you maybe on the side of rigid boundaries? And start to think about like, what is that vision, that outcome you want in that space of your life, to start to set those Goldilocks boundaries of in between, of that sweet spot. And lastly, if you'd like to learn more on this topic and go a little bit deeper with me, I've created a pre-recorded video of a bit of a mini workshop on how to create healthy boundaries, and how to, build deeper awareness of the boundaries you have in your life, how to start to fine tune them and transform your boundaries in relationship to your vision, as well as some other really helpful tools and tips to make this tool something that's, helpful and beneficial for you in your life. So there'll be some details on that in the description below. I hope you join me and dive into this and join me on this journey.